I'm required to record the classes, but I won't be recording the critiques, okay? So we're going to be starting out with a lesson, and then we'll do critiques on the second half of the class. So I always like to start out the first project with a really loose, free, kind of exploratory painting, just to kind of to get new people comfortable with the watercolor and to get the old timers kind of unstuck from their patterns and just open up. So this one is based on music. So I'd like you to select some music that really moves you, like literally moves your body. And I suggest working on the largest piece of paper that you can splurge on. This is a piece Francine had given me, some sheets of paper. Most of them I passed on to students, but I had a couple. I think it's some kind of linen. It's like I think it's like I don't know what it was. It's different. It's like more fibery. It was more like cottony. Why isn't it playing? Huh. I'm gonna try again. There we go. So yeah, and keep in mind that you can always paint on, look you guys, this show, I did this before my vacation. I'm wearing a winter sweater. It shows how we finally have moved into summer. It's finally warm enough. I've got a tank top on today, but it's so funny to see me wearing this sweater. I'm using a ton of water, and I've got this really big brush, and I'm just kind of pouring it on randomly. I'd like you to try using a lot of water for this painting, because when you do that, the colors can blend on their own, and you really get a feel for how the watercolor reacts. And use whatever colors call you, and just really kind of intuit your way through. I have a spray bottle. I'm going to be using a lot of water from my spray bottle as I dab on the color. Notice how I have my warm colors in one palette and my cool colors in another palette. It's not necessary to do that, but it sure is a nice luxury to have. But even if you don't do that, it is very crucial. You'll notice how big my wells of color are and how much paint I have in there. You really want to get enough color, otherwise it's going to be so faint. For my color scheme, I'm going to stick with my blues and my oranges. So those are complementary colors. But I'm also going to do a lot of blending to get neutrals. You can see how I'm dragging the blue through the orange, and it's going to make a neutral brown color. And so I will have good contrast between the complementary colors, but I'll also have a lot of more subtle tones, which is kind of what I wanted to do for this one. So I'm just doing different kind of strokes with a brush. I started out with my huge brush. Now I'm going to kind of a medium large, and I'm going to work my way down to a smaller, finer brush. So try, if you have a variety of sizes of brushes, try to incorporate those. I'm doing some kind of horizontal strikes, but also some vertical marks. And I kind of started with the center of the paper, and I'm working my way out.
Carissa, what music are you listening to for this?
it's kind of like a, kind of like a jazzy Afro beat. I'd say upbeat with some kind of happy music, I guess. You can hear it, right?
Yeah, we can hear it. I just wanted to know if I was listening to classical or jazz or.
I would say, like, I always play classical in the class because I feel like it's, it's conducive to a calm nervous system. But I would say choose music, like I said, that's literally going to move you. I like kind of danceable music. I like to paint to more upbeat, danceable music with a beat. But some people find that too jarring, or too overloading to their nervous system. So depending on the mood you're in, you might want a real calm sonata, or you might want some really innovative jazz. Choose the music of your choice. Go with your own choice of music. So here I've got a really fine brush, and I'm using darker, and I'm actually picking up some of my paint is puddling, and I'm picking up the paint in those puddles and moving it around. But I'm wanting to get, and you can move the paper around like this and make it drip and make it blend. This is the type of thing that is going to help you get a real tactile sense of how the watercolor responds, like the actual kind of physics of it.
Marissa, is this an app? Are you doing an abstract?
Yeah, I'm doing an abstract. And if you got, you can do whatever you want. If you may start to see some imagery emerge that you might want to bring out. If you start to see like any shapes that look like something, you can certainly bring that out. But I would say my hope for you is to be really intuitive and spontaneous and open and in the moment. And I don't want you in your planning logical mind, because I'm really trying to get you totally right brain here.
So did you have any thoughts about the composition before you started?
No, I just started. I had no thoughts at all. I'm totally following the music. I was not in my thinking mind at all. It's like I'm just letting the music, I'm kind of dancing, I'm kind of dancing with the paper and the paint. And I'm standing up. Notice how I'm standing up. That keeps you more in your body. What I want you to do is I really want you to get out of your head and into your body to start off with, because that's where the creative, impulse really comes from, more than the mental thinking mind.
Clarissa,
Yeah.
I thought the class started at 8:45, doesn't it?
No, it starts at 8:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good.
Okay, yeah. I had, with that gold and now with this phthalo blue, I had ordered a new set of high flow fluid acrylic paint. And so I'm kind of experimenting with this, and I'm pouring it directly on. What I'd like you to try to do is to get a real range of very watered down, subtle tones contrasted with very heavy pigmented paint. So, because I want you to really experience the range of density that you can get in watercolor or in water media. And so if you have any acrylics on hand, you can go ahead and incorporate them. If you have regular tube acrylics, you'll have to kind of water them down a little bit with some water. But try to get some density of color as well as some real washed down subtle tones. Here I'm just kind of spreading the paint around a little bit. I've got, again, it's kind of pooling up. I don't have my paper taped down, and also, even if I did, it would probably be buckling because I'm using so much water, right, that it's buckling and it's pooling. So that can have kind of an interesting effect because the more the pigment's going to sit inside those wells and it can dry like that, but you can also move it around and manipulate it. So yeah, you're just, you know, excuse me, you're not planning ahead. Just in each moment, you're following your impulse and your intuition and allowing the paper to guide you as to what's next. What's the next one move that wants to be done? What is the next area that's wanting some paint, you know? And you just follow it. But you can see what I've done is I've started in the center and moved my way out. You don't have to do it that way. If you want to start with a diagonal or whatever, you can. I poured some more phthalo blue in the middle, and I'm going to smear it around with my brush. And again, I'm bouncing around to different brushes. The title of this project is A Lyrical Abstract Based on Music. So, you know, lyrical, I want to look up the definition of lyrical and see what it. Okay, so lyrical, of literature, art, or music, expressing the writer's emotions in an imaginative and beautiful way. So that's why you want to come out of, it's a feeling type of painting, you know, where you're feeling, the music is moving you emotionally and you're kind of expressing the feelings that the music is evoking you onto the paper. Expressing beauty and strong emotion, having the qualities of music. So I'm kind of, you can see as I go here, I just keep building up layers. And, you know, some of the strokes that I'm doing, most of this is all wet on wet, but some of them are dry. So you get a mix of hard lines and softer shapes. And again, think about, you know, the one thing that I will ask you to consciously choose ahead of time before you put the music on, before you get into your painting, is your color choices, your color family. So if you want a more lively painting like this one, you'll go with opposite colors. And if you want a more calm, like soothing, quiet painting, you'll go with analogous colors or colors that are really similar. This is actually a calligraphy ink. It's an iridescent bronze, and it comes in a little glass jar, and I'm actually just using the dropper, and I'm directly drawing with the dropper to get some really dense paint. Like it's almost raised on the paper. It almost has a you know, a physical texture to it. But it's still in the same color family as the orange.
Krista, what was the type of paint again? Iridescent.
It's a bronze iridescent calligraphy ink. It's kind of like the acrylic inks that we've been using, but there's a line of calligraphy inks that it's a Dr. Martin's. And you can see how when I put the bronze like up there, up here on the blue, it stands out more. When I put it on the orange, it blends in more. So you get that. But this is very lyrical, right? The movement, it's like notes moving through space.
Are the calligraphy inks permanent, or can you pick them up later?
No, those are all permanent. Okay, so that's the painting demo. So that took about 15 or 20 minutes, it looks like. And then this is the final painting. Yeah, you can kind of see the density of the bronze and the heavy pigment of the blue. But what I really enjoyed with this painting is look at all these subtle colors. I even got some pretty lavender colors, which I was kind of surprised by. I guess because I included a little bit of cadmium red. I had some red or some red violet, I think this was. I extended my oranges out a little bit into the red field. But what I really enjoyed were all these really subtle tones in the background. And since I used a ton of water, my paper really, and because of this type of paper, my paper really buckled a lot. And so I filmed a little short demo video here of how to flatten your paper, because I've shown this in class, but I haven't shown it here. So you'll need 2 sheets. I'm putting this face down on I have 2 sheets of scrap watercolor paper that I use. You can either spray water on. I like to brush it on because I feel like I can get a more even coat on the whole thing. Look, I'm pouring the water on. I'm putting a ton of water on the back of this because I had a ton of water on the front. And this is pretty heavy paper, so it can take it. But even your 140-pound paper can take quite a bit of water, but this is requiring a lot of water to flatten it. You can see where I used so much paint that it came through the paper. If you don't, that's because I use the acrylic, you know, but normally, you know, you'd probably be able to paint on the backside of this, and I could even paint on the backside of parts of it.
So Carissa, are the 2 sheets you put down first dry?
Yeah, I just have 1 sheet on the bottom, which is dry. It's some hot press paper that I bought by accident, and it was a long time ago, and I decided I bought like a pack of them, and I felt like the way I was painting at the time, I wasn't painting like this. If I was painting like this, I would feel free to use the hot press, but I was doing more controlled work and the hot press wasn't working for me. So I designated it as my flattening paper. But you'll have to come up with something. You know, sometimes I've actually just used, so I'm putting the other scrap paper on top, right? Sometimes I just put it face down on my painting table and then put the books directly on the paper. If I'm in a pinch, like over in Maui, I did that. If I was painting at my rental place and I had to bring the painting right to the gallery, I just kind of improvised. And then get the heaviest books that you have. And you want to, you'll notice how I don't have any gaps between the books. Make them butt up right to each other, because if you leave even a half an inch or an inch gap, you'll have a little bubble.
What is the poundage on this paper?
I think it's 300,
Good, it worked like that, huh?
but I'm not sure. It might have, I'm not sure. It's, do you know, Francine, that paper that you gave me from the woman who moved into the retirement home? Is she here?
Oh, I think it's 300.
Okay.
Karen loved paper and she loved all kinds of, she was a teacher here. And she just always tried experimental, all the different brands and everything. I think it was some type of linen odd thing, and it
Yeah.
had been really around for a long time. So maybe that's why your paint soaked through. There might have been some sizing that had.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it just happens. But it's great to experiment on because you don't worry about it.
Right, exactly. Thank you for donating that.
She donated it, and I was the pipeline.
Well, thank you for doing that. I'm going to show you. I'm just going to show you another quick video. This was from my art journal class, and I just want to show you this because it has a couple of other techniques that I didn't show in this one using the. So I'm using this is the calligraphy color. It's, these are both, I'm just using 2 calligraphy colors, and I'm pouring, you can see I pour, look how much I pour right into the palette. And then this is, see, it's a Dr. Martin's Iridescent Calligraphy Colors Copper. That was the one I used for the dropper to drag it across the other painting. And I'm gonna pour that in. But what I want to show you is how you can get texture with alcohol and salt. So the main thing is that you have to, you have to do this while it's still wet. And you have to have enough paint down. So I've done this kind of wave shape. And I've used up all that paint that I poured in there. And then I'm just going to take, it's just regular rubbing alcohol. And I'm going to pour a little bit into the cap here. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on. And you can see what it does. It repels the paint and it makes these little textury drops of color. So you might want to include that in your lyrical painting to get some textures. And then I painted the copper. And you have to work rapidly. If you're doing, this is in my watercolor journal. I'm using just regular kosher salt, and I'm going to sprinkle it on paint while it's still wet. But if you are working, especially with a large area like this, you have to work rapidly, because remember, the most crucial thing, it's not going to work if it's dry, so it has to still be wet. So I'm going to sprinkle the salt on, and then what you do is you let it completely dry. And after it's completely dry, you brush it off. And this is the texture that you get. What was really beautiful, especially with this iridescent copper, it brought out some of the, look at this green in here. It separated the copper into the brown and the green. And so it brought out some really more subtle tones, and it gives this little kind of sandy texture here. So it's a fun thing to experiment with. So
Doris, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, let's do questions now.
How long do you leave the books on?
Overnight.
Okay. And what is the base of the calligraphy ink? Is it acrylic or gum arabic or something else? Do you know?
It's something permanent. I'm not really sure.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
The calligraphy ink, you poured it on. I didn't see you add any water to it at all. You just used that straight. Is that correct?
Yep, I used it straight. I wanted some really dense color, and I'd like you to try to experiment with that this time. Get some just pure color. And if you don't have any liquefied color that you can use really densely like that, then mix up a very thick puddle with your watercolor. Just have it really dense and almost like gooey. And you can even pick up a, get a stick or the end of your brush or something to apply it, or a Q-tip or something. But try to get some really solid color on there, but also some real some real subtle watered down tones.
Is there a brand of watercolors that's more dense pigment-wise?
The more professional grade colors will be more dense, and then the student grades are going to be more watered down. They're going to have more of the binder in it.
Is there a particular brand though for really saturated color?
Well, kind of the main kind of go-to professional brands I'd say are Winsor Newton and Daniel Smith. They're both really good, high quality professional lines of watercolor. And you guys can go to Art Essentials. I like to go there in person and just, then you can really shop the colors that you like, and you can see what's on sale, and try a couple of different brands out, and try some tubes and some jars.
And if you go to Art Essentials, you can say you're a student and you get 10% discount.
Yeah.
And it's a local business, so we like
Yeah.
to support them. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to support them rather than Amazon. I'm trying to get away from my Amazon addiction. It's so easy to just go to Amazon
And order.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh, I got my credit card bill statement a couple days ago, and half the things were for Amazon. It's scary.
Also, imagine what life would be like if all we had locally was Michael's. That would be, it's not that there's nothing there, but pretty limited.
Yeah. So in the back of so they have the watercolor aisle with all the tubes. And then in the back of the store, kind of just behind the sales counter, there's an aisle that has all the liquid, all the little jars of India inks and acrylic inks and calligraphy colors. So I encourage you, they've got fluorescent and iridescent. So I encourage you to go back there and pick out a few colors.
It sounds really dangerous.
It is. Maybe you can go in mentally with a set price limit of how much you're going to allow like a budget, how much you're going to spend.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
Not as dangerous as Amazon or Flick.
It's kind of different doing it from your computer than doing it in person. I think it helps keep you in check more. Okay, any other questions about this project, you guys?
So Carissa, are we going to do, how is the format of the class? Is it going to be a demo and then critique?
Yep. The format of the class will be that I will, just like today, I'll present the project and show you a video demo. And then we'll show the paintings from the previous week. So I actually have some paintings a few paintings that were sent in by people from the last class of summer school. But next week, so there's a few ways you can share your paintings. So next week, I'd like you to bring these paintings in to share with the group for feedback. And, my hope for you guys is that you can stay free of judgment and self-criticism and making it a personal failure if your work isn't up to your, like if you don't like it, that you can not get down on yourself for it and stay open. And I mean, I know this is hard because I'm asking you to not be insecure about your work, but I want you to know that this group is like totally non-judgmental and supportive, and we're just here to really encourage each other and to hold the space for our creative unfolding and our creative exploration, including our mistakes and our, you know, you're not going to grow unless you try new things. And just like Eldon, falling down all the time, you know, but that's how he's learning. Like when he's, that's how we learn, is we fall down and we get back up again and just keep going. And so we're just here to support each other. So, because I know some people are reluctant to bring their paintings to share because they don't like it or they feel like it's not good. But that's how we're going to learn. And by sharing it, we can really look at it from a neutral place and just kind of discern what's working, what's not working, what's really effective, you know. And sometimes you'll have these happy accidents and you'll stumble upon something that worked out really well. And that's how watercolor is. With watercolor, a lot of the magic of watercolor is kind of releasing control. Just like today's project, I think, and I'm hoping you'll find that the more, you know, you're kind of guiding it and putting it on, and you might have an intention, but the more you can release the control and let the watercolor kind of do its thing, the better quality it's going to be. So sometimes less is more when you're manipulating the paint with watercolor. But anyway, there's going to be, so bring your paintings next week to share. And there's 3 ways that you can share the work with the class. You can either take a picture with your iPhone and email me the image, and I'll put it up on my desktop and we'll go through and look at each one. Or if you know how to do the share screen on your Zoom, you can take the iPhone picture and share it from your end, or you can simply hold your painting up in front of the camera. So we'll spend the, you know, the rest of the class looking at work. My goal is to kind of keep this class to 2 hours, because otherwise we're gonna all get Zoom fatigue. So depending on how many paintings we have, you know, I might have to, sometimes we'll be able to spend more time on them, and sometimes we'll have to go through them a little more quickly to get through them all.
This is sort of none of my business, but I want to encourage people to take pictures and send them, or I don't know about the sharing thing, but I do notice that when we hold pictures up, the focus often isn't very good, or the lighting, so it's hard to see them well. So sending them in is very helpful.
Yeah, it's not ideal to hold them up, but in a pinch, if it's not working, or if it didn't, or if they do it on the spot like Molly does,
Of course.
you know, it's fine.
And Carissa, I remember you requested that we just send in 1 picture.
Yeah. We do have a pretty large class. We have 35. I increased the cap. They had it capped at 25. And I asked Ken, he increased the cap to 35, but he said, that's it. I guess the main campus has come down. and they're not allowing us to increase the cap. So he allowed it for this class, but he said no more. So this is the largest class that I have, and it tends to be well attended. And you guys are a very motivated and prolific group. So depending, I'm going to play that by ear. I'm not, you'll get from my style, I'm not real rigid and strict. I like to go with the flow. So, you know, and sometimes it works out that if people send in 2 paintings, we can look at them at once, side by side. So let's just play that by ear, you know, if let's just see how that goes. But I may have to limit a little bit. Okay, any other questions, you guys? I'm just trying to take attendance here.
If we know how to share screen, do you prefer that to sending it in email, or which do you prefer?
I don't really have a preference. Either way. In a way, well, either way. There's pros and cons both ways. If you email it to me, it makes a little more work on my end, but then if you share screen, it takes a little more time in class. So it doesn't really matter. It all balances out.
Carissa,
Uh-huh.
just wondering, you know, how a watered down bronzed acrylic paint would work in comparison to the calligraphy bronze.
Yeah.
It worked?
Would it work in this painting project, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's watered down, like I didn't really water mine down, my bronze. I didn't water it down. The more you water down the iridescent colors, the less sparkly they are. But do you have some bronze acrylic paint?
I do.
Yeah, why don't you give it a try? You don't necessarily have to water it down too much. I mean, you can just make it liquefied enough.
Okay.
You know, to use. But yeah, I would encourage you, especially, you know, this is the one really free expression painting that we're going to be doing, unless you want to do more. And that brings up another really important point for this class. I mean, I feel like you guys all know this because you've all been working with me for a while, but I just want to remind you that as we go through these assignments, you are in no way obligated to do the projects that I present. If you want to do this type of lyrical painting every single week, then you should do that. Like if you want to just paint a wolf for the whole 8 classes, then you should do that. Like you totally, I want you to paint on whatever you want to paint. I'm just presenting different projects and different assignments to try to introduce a range of topics and techniques and approaches to round you out so that you can determine what's a good fit for you. But this is the only really free-form expression painting that I have lined up for this session. So I would say, like, go for it. You know what I mean? Okay, any other questions before we go into critique?
I have one. Since I mistakenly arrived late, is your demonstration a video that I could see? Or
Yeah, that's another good point. Thank you for asking that, Pamela. So I'm recording this video, and in fact, thank you for the reminder. I'm going to stop recording it now because we're going to go into